As we take the first tentative steps toward moving around again, we'll talk with people who've survived COVID-19 about what they learned from battling the virus. Devastation, frustration, but not surprise. This morning, what can be done about Michigan's aging, neglected, and increasingly dangerous infrastructure? Today is Sunday, May 24th, 2020, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. I do hope you're enjoying the holiday weekend, though certainly not a classic launch for a Michigan summer season by any stretch. There is, of course, the pandemic, but because that wasn't apparently enough of an ordeal, the rains came. The waters rose, and those waters overwhelmed a set of dams in mid-Michigan, leaving us with extraordinary scenes on both sides. Midland swamped in historic flooding, and back behind it, lake beds suddenly drained and now running dry. It was shocking, but it wasn't surprising, certainly not to those who've been tracking Michigan's infrastructure needs. We know that so many bridges and dams, roads and pipes are way past their expiration dates, and yet, what have we done about it? Well, hardly a thing. A little later this morning, we're going to talk about the needs and, just as important, the will required to address those needs. But up first, we're going to talk with 4 people who have had the coronavirus and are now moving on as coronavirus survivors. What was it like? And now, today, do they feel immune to it, or do they feel vulnerable to something they've already been through once? It's all today on Flashpoint. All right, I want to start today with 4 people who have been to the mountain and back with COVID-19. All of them have recovered from the virus. Their experiences with it quite varied, from recovery at home to being on a ventilator in the hospital. But all of them good enough to be with us today via Zoom. Great to have you all here. You know this virus can be trouble once it gets into a household, and that was the case with the Detroit Free Press Bureau that we have joining us there at the bottom of the screen. M.L. Elric, the former and now again Free Press reporter, the host of the Soul of Detroit podcast, and with him his wife Teresa Baldus, also a reporter with the Free Press. Theirs is an upstairs downstairs story that we're going to hear in a minute. Above them to the left, the Reverend Horace Sheffield, no stranger to Flashpoint, and one of several notable pastors in Detroit to fall victim to coronavirus. And in the upper right, Dr. Scott Cates, a Henry Ford Health System physician who found himself on the wrong side of the hospital bed and who sadly lost his father, Dick, to the virus earlier this month. And Dr. Cates, Scott, I want to start with you. As a physician who had read so much and heard about it, and then you're going through it, I'm really curious as to whether or not everything that you'd heard and read and expected was exactly how it went, or was there a collision of reality with expectation?
No, I guess maybe I was prepared a little bit, but I really was knew what was going on, knew what to expect. Probably the worst part is every time I kept getting worse, I knew what that meant. I knew what the mortality rate was as it was going up. And so, but at least the knowledge that I had, I was able to prepare for it and prepare my family, et cetera, for it.
You make a great point. You can know too much. It cannot be necessarily healthy for you. Reverend Sheffield, when people ask you what it was like, what do you tell them now?
Well, it's the kind of thing that the doctor just told you. I mean, when you see people die, you know, folks that you've known for years who've passed away, you're wondering if you're going to be in that number. I mean, you feel terrible. You just don't know what the outcome is going to be. So I consider it a blessing to be one that have gone through it and still be here.
And of course, as leading a church, you also had parishioners who were, I'm sure at the time you felt like you needed to be there for them, right?
I did. And, you know, I was in New York. It's basically where I got affected. But when I came home and I got sick and was tested immediately, I did not prolong having services. There were a few people in my church who got sick, a couple of who passed, and I immediately suspended services. So, you know, it's a difficult thing to deal with when you don't have fellowship. I mean, that's one of the things about this, whether you're in the hospital, your family's not there, or you're sick at home and people can't see you, the absence of human touch and compassion makes it even worse.
Yeah, I think that's one of the horrific parts of dealing with this thing. ML and Teresa, I said once it gets into a household, but I guess it almost sounds like, Teresa, you two got it almost at the exact same time, right? It wasn't one of you really delayed that much from the other.
No, in fact, the first day when he showed a fever, when he spiked a fever, I said, okay, that's it. You need to go get a test. And it was a Friday morning. And by 9 o'clock that night, all of a sudden I had a fever, and I went into panic mode and I just got scared. But yeah, it was the very same day, although I think he may have had a little longer than I did, but he fared a little bit better than I did too.
Well, and then you're left with this chaotic situation in your household, your two daughters trying to take care of two ailing parents in different parts of the household. ML, try to describe what sounds like a rather chaotic situation.
Yeah, so they really couldn't take care of us because we were isolated. In fact, at that time, I was in an upstairs bedroom, Teresa was in the basement, and we have a lot of pets, but we even tried to avoid making contact with the pets because you didn't know at that time whether they might carry it. So our biggest concern was, had we exposed the girls? And I spent about 2 weeks walking around the house as little as possible, disinfecting the toilet and the dials and anything that you touched, and wearing newspaper bags on my hand to open the refrigerator because we just didn't want to spread it. But I think for me, I was just fatigued and a little disoriented and very depressed. I don't think so much because of COVID-19, but because of that feeling of, I have a family here and I want to take care of them and I can't go anywhere near them and I might need them to take care of me. So we were really proud about how they rose to the occasion. And as far as we know, they didn't have it or they're asymptomatic, but we're just grateful that right now our house seems to be a healthy one. Yeah,
Teresa, how did the daughters seem to hold up through this with a very disorienting situation for them?
Right, a lot better than I expected. They cooked for us. They really did. You always wonder what your kids are going to be like in a real jam, and they really rose to the occasion. But and I've written about this, but I cannot help but share the highlight of it all. I mean, as scary as it was, and emotional. I was an emotional wreck for 2 weeks. But on one night, I was finally hungry. And I hollered upstairs, I'm hungry. And I was craving pizza. And we live in an old Tudor, so we have those old-fashioned laundry chutes. And after I said I'm hungry, my daughter sliced some pizza in a bag, threw it down the chute, and said, "Here you go." And so
your own Grubhub system through the laundry chute. Yeah, I love it. Scott, back to you. I'm curious, now that you've been through it, and as a physician, you already had a fair understanding of what it was like. What is the worst misconception that you keep hearing from people about this virus or about what it's like to have it?
Yeah, well, I think it's the, quote, mild thing. So even if you don't have to go to the hospital, and I'm not sure if others on this were in the hospital, but my mild was no appetite and not body aches, body hurts, and a headache that would not go away. I didn't eat anything for a week. I was forcing fluids. I couldn't even do that. And we know that 10, 15, 20% of patients will have diarrhea. Yeah. I had that also. Actually went to the emergency room twice just to get IV fluids because I hadn't developed the shortness of breath yet, which usually starts, the real bad part starts at about a week or so after that. And it wasn't until that time when I got short of breath that I went to the hospital. So I think the mild, or I'll get through this, is a huge misconception.
Well, in fact, now today, do you feel like your old self, or are you still tired, still feel like you've got the residue of this with you?
No, I am perfectly recovered. The only thing that I don't have is I lost a fair amount of muscle mass. Yeah. It's a terrible way to diet. I shed my belly fat also, but remember, I was in bed for 4 weeks, and a good part of a week I was paralyzed on a ventilator, and that will completely sap your strength.
We know how often people who go on a ventilator don't come off of one, so that really is, yes, a blessing. Horace, what will you always remember as being the toughest part of dealing with? What was the physical manifestation of it for you?
Well, I've been thinking about saying this to you the whole time today when I knew I was going to be on. Part of me getting through this was on Instagram watching your musical serenades.
That's very kind.
I looked forward to them, really, to be perfectly honest with you, when you're sick and you don't know what the outcome is going to be, that's bad enough. But I had a good friend of mine, Sandra Campbell, did our audit for Dable, went to high school with me. And I was so sick, she emailed me and asked me how I was doing. And I told her terrible. And I never went back to see her response. And she responded to me that she felt the worst she'd ever felt in her life. And 2 days later, she was dead. And I didn't even read the email. I was so sick.
Yeah.
And so, just dealing with people almost every single day, you get news of someone who's passed. And there's a little bit of survivor's guilt in there. I never really, knew what that felt like. But I have, to a certain degree, experienced that. But, the worst part for me was just, again, not knowing whether or not I was going to be one of those persons who survived or one that succumbed.
Yeah. Teresa and ML, I'm curious as to whether your experiences of the virus were similar. Did you both have sort of the same thing, or do you feel like you went through two different things?
I was fatigued, maybe a little disoriented, but I'd been fighting a cough for a couple months, so I was just trying to hydrate as much as possible. But I did have one symptom. I don't know what to ascribe it to, but it got to a point where I still had some appetite, but not much. But it was really hard for me to drink. At some point, even just the taste and feel of water in my mouth was really unpleasant, if not offensive. But I knew I had to keep drinking it because I wanted to try and flush this out, because what else can you do? We don't have any other approach to this thing.
Teresa, how about you?
My symptoms were a little different for me. We both had the fatigue, but we both talked about this. I got hit harder. I mean, I was in bad shape in terms of, I had the sweats. Like, I would go to bed at night and I'd wake up and the entire couch would be sopping wet. My body was soaking wet. This happened 4 nights in a row. And then in the second week, and everybody keeps saying, be careful, you're feeling better. You could always crash the next day. So this was always weighing on my mind. And then in week 2, I started to get like this tightness, right, where like my throat meets my chest. So when I took a deep breath, it would hurt. And then I thought, oh no, this damn thing's trying to get into my lungs. And I did every breathing exercise. I did everything I was supposed to do while sleeping through most of it. But on day 13, I woke up and it was gone, and I was that pain. But
did you ever feel like you were headed for the hospital or needed to be headed to the hospital?
No, I really, I never got the shortness of breath.
Yeah.
So I was scared. I was very mindful of that, but sorry.
Those are the aforementioned. The pets are showing up now too. I'm really eager to ask all of you this one final question, and that's whether or not, we have some question now, of course, still as to whether or not having the antibodies, having been through it, means that you're immune from it, or whether you feel really vulnerable to it because you know that you can get it. You had it once before. Dr. Cates, let me start with you. How do you feel about that now moving forward?
Well, I'll speak more. I really hope that we have immunity, because if you can't get immunity after having it, then we're in a whole bunch of trouble, and we don't know that. But I mean, that's, to me, the bottom line. We have to do some hope at some point. I haven't seen my wife in 10 weeks. She's going to come home this weekend. She's been sequestered with my son in Texas, just because I was worried about bringing this home, which obviously I did, but I certainly hope so.
Yeah. Horace, how about you? Do you feel safer now or not so?
Well, Devin, I've gone through 3 different things. I had scarlet fever when I was 12. Back in 1990, when I ran for council, I had that streptococcus flesh-eating disease where several people died. And I've gone through this. So I feel as if I owe the Lord, the profession I'm in, I owe him some additional gratitude and a whole lot more service. So I don't worry about that. Every day there's something different you hear about, whether you can get it, whether you can't. I can't be on that roller coaster. I like the good doctor, I certainly hope so, because none of us want to go through this again.
Yeah. And ML and Teresa, how about you? Teresa, let me start with you.
I operate under the assumption that I can get it again. There's not enough science out there that tells me that I have antibodies.
Yeah.
And so I'm out on my bike today on a bike ride. I wear my mask, wear my mask all the time. But I hope I have some immunity, but I don't expect that I do. So I pretend that I have none and move forward that way.
ML?
I've been married to Teresa for 20 years, so if that hasn't killed me, this isn't going to get me. But I will tell you this. I read something by someone who's studied 400 years of plague history, and he says the one thing that you find is that government doesn't respond very well or very quickly, and that those who are the most afraid live the longest. So I don't care what your scientists tell you. You got to wear a mask, and if you're coming anywhere near me, you better be wearing a mask, because otherwise I may adjust your neck a little bit. So put a mask on, just out of respect for other people and for what we believe.
Yeah. You've got shaking heads around you on our screen. All of you, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're all with us.
Thank you.
And I'm really glad that you spent some time with me this morning and today. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Continue good health, friends.
Thank you.
When we come back, the infrastructure disaster in Michigan. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
Beaumont doctors and caregivers continue to lead the way through the COVID-19 crisis, and we are dedicated to keeping you safe in our care. We're taking extra steps to protect the health and safety of all our patients and caregivers so you can feel confident coming to Beaumont. Come to us in an emergency. Talk to your doctor to begin scheduling necessary screenings and procedures. Our expert Beaumont doctors and caregivers are here to help you.
We stayed home. We stayed apart. But most importantly, we just stayed. And our Suburban Collection family of 3,500 team members strong has had the honor of serving this community for the last 70 years. From the first Oldsmobile sold in 1948 to the 1 millionth delivery in 2020, our family has been keeping yours on the road and making our community a better place to live and work. And now it's time to get back to work. Our service bays are open to keep your cars and trucks running with no contact pickup and delivery, and we are live online with sales consultants available now to navigate purchasing from home. For 70 years, we've changed with the times, and especially now, each day is an opportunity to find the positive possibilities, because we're the Suburban Collection and we are here for you. Today, tomorrow, always.
It's felt like someone hit the pause button on the whole world. Now, as we wait to see what the next chapter will be, we do know this is going to be with us for a while.
As we settle into this new normal, Local 4 and Click on Detroit are here,
helping keep you informed with facts. We all have a part to play in this recovery.
We're out here covering stories as they happen,
so you know what's really going on to help you make informed decisions.
It's all about moving forward. We're right here with you.
It was disaster on top of crisis in mid-Michigan this week. The flooding came, yes, through a near biblical 2 days of rainfall, but when the dams failed, there were more than a few people who shook their heads and knew that it had been a matter of time. Very happy to have with me Jacob Rushlow, the president of the American Societies of Civil Engineers, their Michigan section, and he's also the superintendent of public service for the city of Livonia. Jacob, I'm curious, when you first heard about what had happened up in the middle part of the state and you heard that we had had 2 dams fail, what was your first thought?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Devin. Appreciate this opportunity to speak with you today about infrastructure in general, as well as the dam failures. And this is an issue that has become increasingly dominating in the news across the country, and obviously has serious consequences for our nation and our state's economy, as well as our quality of life.
Yeah, it's bad. 2 years ago, the Civil Engineers group put out report cards. And at the time, you gave Michigan's dams a C-, which is bad enough, but the overall grade was a D+. So even the dams were in better shape than some other parts. But let's start with the dams, because you were telling me earlier, I think most people would be surprised, I think, to learn that we have 2 dams fail every year in the state.
Yeah, that's correct. That's kind of an average, but across the state, we have more than 2/3 of Michigan's almost 2,600 dams have exceeded their typical 50-year design life. Additionally, there's 271 of those dams that were built prior to 1900, so putting them, just over 100 years old. That's more than twice exceeded their typical 50-year design life. Michigan, as you mentioned, has an average of about 2 dam failures per year. Some of those are smaller private dams. But we do recognize that from this issue, there's not nearly enough funding for our dams for maintenance and removal. We only seem to recognize that problem, unfortunately, and the severity of that problem in the wake of emergencies such as this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. We have 2 dams that fail every year, and those don't get a whole lot of attention, but they don't fail quite as spectacularly or as costly and tragically as this one did. I think a lot of people might have been surprised to learn that so much infrastructure in Michigan, like these dams, are privately owned. Do you think that's something that most people are aware of?
I'm not really sure if the general public has that understanding or not. I mean, in the case of dams, there are quite a few that are owned privately. A lot of those were built many years ago by private corporations, building hydroelectric for power generation. Some are even for other uses like recreation. But yeah, there are a fair amount of dams as far as a good chunk of infrastructure in the state that are privately owned.
And the cost of upkeep on changing these, obviously we've got regulatory bodies that are inspecting them and all the time and trying to hold people responsible. But the amount of money that we're talking for improving infrastructure in Michigan is an extraordinary amount, I have to believe.
It certainly is. And just speaking on dams alone while we're on that topic, while we have done some overall improvement in condition of Michigan dams over the years, most recently that was actually through the removal of dams. You may have heard some of those that have been removed for recreational purposes and opening up waterways more to their natural state. Really, the state must make more progress, particularly as dams across the state continue to age. According to the 21st Century Infrastructure Commission report, there's about a $225 million need in additional state funding over the next 20 years to manage all of these aging dams in the state.
That's $250 billion just on, or $1 billion just just on dams.
Correct, and that's just dams. And when we took a look at our the report card, the infrastructure report card for the entire state of Michigan, that document was created to really help Michigan understand, like you mentioned, the understanding of private versus public infrastructure. To really help Michigan understand the state of our infrastructure. As civil engineers like me, our daily focus is ensuring the health, safety, and welfare of the public through infrastructure. We plan, design, construct, maintain these pieces of infrastructure in our network. And it's not something that we're just trained and educated to do. We know it's our responsibility and our passion. The report card really provides an opportunity to share that information with the public, to help educate the public. We want the public to use that document as a snapshot and a tool to use and engage in conversation about where we are as a state and where we want to be or where we need to be. So we hope that this information provides insight needed to start that conversation across the state.
This is one of those things, Jacob, where I feel like you have created this. I think there is this large awareness among Michiganders that we've got to do something. I'm not sure that the will exists in Lansing to make the decisions about how to do it, especially now. And I'm afraid I guess I'm developing a certain skepticism given all of the coronavirus crisis is going to cost us. How are we going to address infrastructure in a year when we've got this kind of outlay on this health emergency?
Yeah, I mean, we know that our infrastructure challenges are significant, but we know they're solvable. We think through strategic, sustainable investment, bold leadership, comprehensive planning, and careful preparation for the needs of the future, Michigan's infrastructure will be improved and restored. We think the time to invest in Michigan's infrastructure is really past due, as we've seen with failures such as this. The longer we wait, and honestly, the more it will cost, as evident from this widening investment gap that we see in increasing infrastructure disruptions and delays in our daily lives, whether it's through simple things like just sitting in traffic for too long or, unrealized water loss through leaky pipes that get produced but don't get collected from the ratepayers. So we know that investing now will save our state more in the long run, while also helping to create an economic opportunity, enhancing the quality of life for the public, and ensuring health and safety.
Yeah. Well, we've got to amass the will somewhere, that's for certain. Jacob, thanks so much for spending time with us today on this terribly important matter. So long.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
You bet. We'll wrap things up for Flashpoint when we come back right after this.
In Lila's Good Health, if you've been putting off needed medical care, don't.
During this pandemic, our health facilities are all positioned well to care for the non-COVID medical needs of our patients.
At St. Joe's and Mercy Health, patients are getting essential care, including cancer operations and procedures for conditions that can lead to stroke or heart damage.
We are concerned that people are putting off needed medical care, so we want them to know we're here for them.
Even in a pandemic, when you need medical care, it's available. For St. Joe's and Mercy Health, I'm Lila Lazarus.
Yeah, I'm married. Doesn't matter. You do that for me? Really? Yeah, I'd like that.
Who are you talking to?
It's Jake from State Farm. Sounds like a really good deal.
Jake from State Farm at 3 in the morning? Who is this?
It's Jake from State Farm.
What are you wearing, Jake from State Farm?
Khakis? Hey, do they ever ask you what you're wearing?
Yeah.
Red sweater, button-down shirt. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
To all the moms, dads, grandparents, and great aunts, our heroes, teachers, and role models, to the people who've guided us through the decades, it's time to let us return the favor. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan wants to remind everyone that a simple phone call, video chat, or social media message can make all the difference in helping someone feel less isolated. Now more than ever, we will stand behind the care you need, like we've done for 81 years.
Michigan storm season is here, and the big difference this year is how we track it. Now Local 4 has a new way of predicting how it's all going to shake out, and we're the only ones who have it in our area. Minutes make a difference, and this system is faster. Plus, we can dive deeper into a storm with even greater precision, which means you can plan better and know exactly what's coming so you'll stay safer. That's what it's all about. So for changing weather in changing times, count on the Local forecast.
Of course, tomorrow is Memorial Day, a time to remember the loved ones we've lost, and this year in particular, we'll be thinking about those families who have lost the 5,000 or so people to coronavirus over these last couple of months. Meet the Press is next. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Flashpoint.